Revenge with Karen.
The first time I ran our transaction engine, it was on a 2014 MacBook with a cracked screen and a fan that sounded like a jet engine taking off. We didn't even have desks then, just a rented corner in a coworking space that smelled like kombucha and broken dreams. That code, it was mine. Not mine in the petty, territorial way. I mean, typed line by line, sleepless night after night, optimized down to the byte. When you spend 3 years nursing a platform into existence, you don't just write code. You pour pieces of your damn brain into it. Then came Derek. He showed up in our Thursday all-hands wearing a Patagonia vest and a $1,200 smartwatch he couldn't stop adjusting, like it was his pulse that powered it. "I'm here to bring structure," he'd said, grinning like he'd just invented capitalism. Derek was the kind of guy who said blockchain as a verb and used agile like it was a personality trait. Didn't know how to run a terminal window, but boy could he pitch. Lots of synergy, scalability, user-centric paradigms. He liked talking about low-hanging fruit while holding a smoothie. You know the type. At first, I ignored him. Startups go through phases, like bad tattoos and worse cap tables. Founders get scared, investors push for polish. Suddenly, your hacker crew turns into a hoodie-clad TED talk lineup. Fine. I kept to my corner. I knew the back end. I was the back end. But Derek didn't like corners. He wanted spotlights. Started checking in with me, asking leading questions like, "Do you think we still need legacy auth logic now that we're pivoting to OAuth 2? Like it was a quiz show, and I was the one with something to prove. Then came the phrases, resource realignment, leaner workflows, moving redundancies. He was sniffing around the team structure like a wolf in Lululemon. Still, I played nice. Laughed, gave short answers, focused on work. That is, until one Monday morning I tried to run a staging deploy and got a red banner, access denied. At first, I thought it was a glitch. I double-checked my SSH keys, reran the script. Nothing. I asked Jenna in DevOps. She blinked twice and said, "Oh, weird, I thought you asked to be removed." I hadn't. Someone had? Now look, I'm not saying I don't enjoy a slow burn mystery as much as the next caffeine-guzzling back-end goblin. But you ever smell a fire before you see smoke? That's what this was. Subtle, sharp, wrong. Like sour milk in your coffee, you know the second it hits. Hey, and while I've got your attention, if you're into watching quiet sabotage unfold in fluorescent-lit offices with people like Derek getting exactly what they deserve, I want to hit that subscribe and like button. Keeps the chaos flowing and honestly, keeps our team caffeinated and plotting more sweet revenge like this. Back to it. Later that day, I noticed a weird commit on the repo. Not mine. Some junior engineer I'd onboarded last year, who now, apparently, had full access. His note, refactoring legacy modules for clarity. Which modules, you ask? My modules. Ones I documented so clearly even a distracted golden retriever could follow them. 2 days after that, I walked past the whiteboard wall outside the conference room and stopped cold. The system's diagram was there, except it had been wiped and redrawn. Same structure, same flow. Except where it used to say Sophie's encryption layer, it now just said Secure Auth Core. No initials, no footnote, just vanished. Like I'd never been there. That's when I started logging everything. Access changes, commit histories, Slack deletions, HR invites. I wasn't angry yet. Anger comes later. This was the quiet part, the observation phase. A sinking suspicion that maybe Derek didn't just want to optimize workflows. Maybe he wanted to erase the people who built the damn thing before the big launch. Rewrite history before the spotlight hit. I didn't say anything. Not yet, because while Derek was busy setting the stage, I was checking the trapdoor. And darling, I'd built it myself. The thing about being erased is, it doesn't happen all at once. It's not dramatic. It's not a scream. It's more like waking up and realizing your reflection's missing from the mirror. You're still brushing your teeth, still wearing the same hoodie that smells like 3 years of code reviews and cold brew, but the glass gives you nothing back. It started with the internal wiki. I built it from scratch. Documentation for every microservice, API behavior, encryption sublayer, rollout order, failure recovery scripts. Most engineers treat internal docs like the junk drawer in their kitchen. Open it only when something's broken. But mine, color-coded, cross-referenced, cited like it was the Constitution. So imagine my surprise when I caught a Slack notification. Derek had asked our sysadmin, Ben, for a full archive of the internal documentation. Not the live version. Not a link, a download, full permissions, into a shared drive named, wait for it, Migration V2. No mention of me, no invite. I pinged Ben privately. You sure that's protocol? He took 2 full minutes to respond. He said you were consulted. Were you not? That's when the back of my neck got cold. 2 days later, the whiteboard in the hallway was rewritten again. This time, encryption module wasn't even named. Just a blue rectangle that said, security layer proprietary. No initials, no labels, just a ghost box where my life's work used to be. But the real kicker, that came in the form of a slide deck. I was reviewing an internal pitch presentation, supposedly to help the marketing team better visualize the product story. Page 5, team bios. I scrolled. Derek, Jenna, Eric, guy from analytics I'd never even seen in person. And then there it was. Lead developer, Connor T. Connor, my mentee, my code baby. The same Connor who once submitted a PR that would have hard deleted our user base if I hadn't caught it in staging. His smile beamed from the slide like a Labrador that just ate a USB stick. The title slapped next to his face like a post-it on a masterpiece. Lead, Dev. I closed the deck, took a breath, opened my password manager, and started quietly backing up everything: local config files, key rotations, endpoint logs, license validation scripts. Not to sabotage, not yet, just preparing, like a surgeon laying out the instruments. The incisions weren't coming today, but they were coming. At the next stand-up, Derek was all teeth and buzzwords. We need a new culture, he said, voice echoing in the glass walls. A young culture. Dynamic. Disruptive. Looked at me when he said disruptive, like I was the stale croissant in his innovation brunch. I smiled, tilted my head. Ah, yes. Nothing says disruption like erasing the person who built the engine. He laughed like I was joking. Everyone else did too. Of course they did. That's the thing about slow betrayals. No one notices until the lights go out. And by then, they're too busy panicking to ask who cut the power. But I wasn't panicking. I was cataloging every line of code they touched, every commit that suspiciously skipped my branch, every Slack thread mysteriously deleted. I even wrote a little script that pinged me whenever someone accessed files with my signature encryption markers. Just a ping, just a whisper, and the pings were getting louder. One night, around 1:12 a.m., I watched a remote session log from Derek's IP hit my license validation wrapper. He didn't even know what he was looking at, ran a grep for the word owner and closed it. No changes, just curiosity or maybe paranoia. Either way, he didn't realize he'd tripped a silent alert. He was trying to understand the keys now, but it was too late. That part of the house didn't have stairs, only a chute. And once you go down, there's no climbing back up. So I sipped my tea, adjusted my notes, and kept smiling. Let them pretend I was gone. I hadn't even started. I was halfway through debugging a latency spike in the account mirroring microservice when the calendar invite hit. No subject line, just join HR Conf RMB. 10 minutes from now. No context, no warning. The kind of thing that makes your spine straighten before your brain catches up. I clicked accept. Didn't pack my bag, didn't close my tabs, just walked. Conference room B had that sad startup vibe, used beanbags, whiteboard that still said Q3 Ockers from a year ago, and a broken HDMI cable dangling like a noose. Derek was already inside. So was Dana from HR, Dana, who always overcompensated with soft smiles when they were about to shove you off a cliff. Sophie, Dana said, motioning to the chair like I'd won a prize. Thanks for making time. I didn't sit. Derek cleared his throat. He had a folder open, paper, not digital. Must have thought it made him look more prepared. We've been reviewing the team's current structure as we prepare for launch, and after careful analysis, you're letting me go, I finished. Dana blinked. Well, we prefer to say the role has been made redundant in light of upcoming shifts in our go-to-market strategy. I stared at Derek. You don't even know what my role is. He didn't flinch. Your code's excellent. It really is. But we need someone more agile, someone who aligns with the new product vision. You tend to overbuild, Sophie, and honestly, you've become hard to work with. That last line landed like a warm fart in an elevator. Hard to work with. That catch-all term for women who know what they're doing and refuse to act impressed by men who don't. I could have launched into a monologue. Could have detailed every subsystem Derek didn't understand. Asked him what agile even meant in the context of back-end encryption dependencies. But I didn't. I just asked one thing. So you're sure the code belongs to you now? Derek leaned back, his smirk calibrated to TED talk smug. All IP created on company time is company property. I smiled. Genuinely, first time in weeks. Dana handed me a generic HR pamphlet, healthcare rollover info, Cobra nonsense, employee exit checklist. I didn't even look at it, just walked out. Calm, quiet, like a doctor leaving the or after calling time of death. My laptop was still open when I got back to my desk. No one had touched it. The terminal was blinking. The sessions still live. I sat down, ran a final script, and deleted my private encryption key. That key wasn't stored anywhere else. No copy. No backup, not even in my cold wallet. It was the only bridge between their app and the license validation module, buried in the backend like a landmine in a sandbox. Without it, everything would still look functional, until the moment it wasn't. Then I opened one more script, something I'd written months ago in a moment of dark foresight. Trigger Sentinel init env equals production. The command didn't look like much. It just returned, auto-trigger protocol armed. That was it. No alarms. No flashing lights, just a quiet contract with future chaos. Derek and his frat tech disciples had spent weeks trying to scrub my name from the system. They never noticed that the system still asked for me, every time it booted, every time it compiled. Not loud, just a whisper. And now that whisper would become a scream. They thought they'd locked me out. They didn't know I'd written the damn door. And before I left, I changed the hinges. Rewired the bell. Painted a target on the welcome mat. It wasn't about revenge. Not exactly. It was about truth. Truth coded into logic, into dependencies, into immutable checks the system could not bypass. They stole something, and soon the code would let them know. I shut the laptop, left it on the desk, didn't even take my mouse. Marissa picked the coffee shop. Of course she did, she had taste. Always had. XUI/UX lead, queen of intuitive flow. Hated unnecessary scroll bars like some people hate war crimes. She was the reason our app felt effortless. Users didn't need tutorials. They felt their way through like the app was reading their mind. Derek never understood that. Said her designs lacked virality. Translation, she didn't make the buttons big enough for him to find with his thumb. We sat outside, drinks sweating on the patio table, while some freelance podcaster in the corner recorded hot takes into a blue Yeti. Marissa wore sunglasses too large for her face and an expression too tired for her age. He rewrote the design layer in Bootstrap, she muttered, stabbing her straw through ice. I checked the latest commit. It looks like a WordPress theme from 2012. I winced. I heard he's pitching it as minimalist now, I offered. She snorted. Minimalist, or like bankrupt. You planning to burn the place down? I shrugged, already lit the match. We didn't talk about it directly, didn't need to. There's a language shared by the exiled, the ones who built things and got pushed out the moment VCs smelled IPO. Marissa didn't ask what I'd done. She just raised her cup in a silent toast. Afterward, I walked home, logged in. My watchers were still pinging. Nothing had changed, not really. They'd moved a few config files, named a few folders, but the bones of the system, untouched. The deployment plan still followed my original flow. They didn't even know which files mattered. That's when I knew Derek and his shiny new hires had no idea what they were launching. The license validation system I'd written had a heartbeat. It called home every time the app booted, staging, dev, prod. Normally, it asked for a timestamped token from my personal key, then moved on. No token, no problem. Staging, it bypassed with a dummy handshake. But prod was different. I opened the backend module and typed for hours, fingers gliding like a surgeon's scalpel. No shortcuts, no comments, just cold logic. I built a subroutine disguised inside the license wrapper, something lean, tucked into a rarely touched branch of code handling version mismatches. I called it Sentinel. If the app hit production without a valid handshake from my key, Sentinel would wait 3 seconds. Then it would lock the database, freeze session states, and overwrite the UI with a simple message pulled from a hard-coded string, stolen property detected. Self-destruct initiated. 3-2, it wasn't malware. It didn't destroy data. It didn't steal anything. It just stopped the show. Loudly, the best part, I wasn't hiding it. The code was right there, open, but buried in complexity, obscured by naming conventions that looked benign. Functions that sounded like they handled analytics or compliance checks. If anyone did spot it, they'd assume it was legacy logic. Nobody touches legacy logic. Not when you're days from launch and your whole brand image is hanging by a single KPI. I wrote it clean, tidy, legally bulletproof, all within my scope of past responsibility. No intrusion, no external access, no call home servers. Just logic, and logic doesn't lie. Once I was done, I ran it in a sandbox. 3 times. Each time it worked exactly as planned. In dev mode, it waved. In staging, it smiled. But in prod, with no token, the countdown began. And then the database sealed itself like a vault. After the final test, I logged out and deleted every trace of my login history. They'd never know I'd been there. The trap wasn't malicious. It wasn't even vengeful. It was justice. Quiet correction for arrogance. For theft. For pretending you could cut the engine out of the car and still expect it to drive. And now, the keys were gone. The ignition was still there, but the moment they tried to start it, boom, 3 seconds. I slept like a baby that night. Derek's face was suddenly everywhere, linked in carousels, podcast thumbnails, banner ads in subway stations, all tight fades, wrinkle filters, that tech bro smirk he probably practiced in the mirror after brushing his teeth with imported charcoal paste. The future of secure transactions, he told one podcaster, perched in a studio that looked like it had been furnished by a crypto influencer with ADHD. We rebuilt the architecture from the ground up, clean, scalable, totally bulletproof. I was sautéing onions when he said that. I laughed out loud. Burned the onions. Didn't even care. He said we. He said I. By the time he hit bulletproof, I half expected him to claim he wrote the entire backend in Morse code using a soldering iron and sheer grit. The host nodded sagely. That's what real vision looks like, he said, like Derek had just revealed fire to a cave full of idiots. The press kits followed, slick videos with animated flows, fake dashboards, and graphics that didn't match the actual UI. TechCrunch ran a feature calling it the Stripe Killer. Wired used the phrase disruptive genius. Some lifestyle blog dubbed Derek the Steve Jobs of fintech. I'm not saying I drank after reading that, but the bottle of red in my kitchen definitely got a little lighter. And I wasn't the only one noticing. The investors were drooling. Series B funding landed overnight. VC firms with names like Ironscale and Nimbus Partners started tweeting about the app. Someone put up a digital billboard in Soma. Just a black background, the company's neon logo, and a countdown clock ticking toward launch day. The irony? The clock was ticking for them too, they just didn't know it yet. From my little apartment, surrounded by houseplants I mostly forgot to water, I watched it all unfold like a Netflix drama I'd already spoiled for myself. The tension was gone. There was no anger, no jealousy, just detachment. Like watching a fool in a horror movie walk into the dark basement with a butter knife and no flashlight. They'd taken everything, the credit, the spotlight, the illusion of control. But they hadn't taken the system, not really. The system still recognized me, or more accurately, it refused to function without me. Like a stubborn old dog refusing food from a stranger. That's when I wrote the email. Simple, anonymous. No signature, no metadata. Just a single line, sent to a personal address I'd kept from a board member who once told me, after a particularly grim code freeze, "You're the only one here I'd trust with my bank account." I typed, "Watch your app on launch day." No flourish, no threat, just a nudge. A flick of a match in a room soaked in gasoline. Then I bought a ticket to the launch. Not a backstage pass, not a press credential. Just a seat in the crowd. Paid full price. Let them think I was gone. Let Derek think his kingdom was rising. He never looked up to see the cracks in the foundation. And now, I didn't need to lift another finger. The trap was in place. The script was loaded. The countdown had already started. And I had the best seat in the house. The night before a launch always smells like stress, burned coffee, whiteboard markers, and unwashed ambition. I'd lived through enough of them to recognize the pattern. Frantic Slack pings at 2 a.m. Duct tape commits named final for real this time, and someone crying in the restroom because Jenkins failed again. But this one was different. From the outside, everything looked polished. The office windows in Soma glowed late into the night, filled with silhouettes huddled around glowing screens. The countdown ticked below 12 hours. Investors were flying in. Swag bags were packed. There were even branded cupcakes with the logo printed in edible ink. But inside the repo, chaos. My remote watchers started buzzing mid-afternoon. A junior engineer, Ravi, I think, was desperately commenting and uncommenting blocks of JSON in the deployment config, trying to get something to pass validation. He wasn't working alone. 2 more commits landed back-to-back, both labeled temp fix and both rolled back within minutes. I could almost hear the panic from 400 miles away. The anomaly. Prod build was rejecting the license handshake. Cleanly, quietly. The app would still load, just long enough for the lockout to trip and seal the vault. I watched for a while. They still hadn't touched the trigger sequence itself. Too buried, too camouflaged. I'd made it look like a dead legacy hook from an old compliance framework, something no one wanted to touch this close to launch. That's the thing about engineers under pressure. They only lift what's labeled urgent. Real dangers hide under the things they think they understand. And Derek, oh Derek, apparently one of the interns flagged the issue in a Slack thread. This module keeps calling a null handshake loop. Should we investigate? The thread died instantly. Derek replied with a single message, ignore it, we don't need her. She was slow and overcomplicated everything. Slow, that was rich, coming from a man who thought Git was a productivity app. I smiled, not because I was angry, not even because I felt vindicated, but because Derek was about to learn what overcomplicated really meant. At 9:42 p.m., I ran one final test in my sandbox, triggered the prod handshake without the key. 3, 2, 1, boom, lockout, data freeze, UI override. Message flashed, stolen property detected. The purge was clean, no rollback, no debug logs, just a cold stop, and the key still gone. Irrecoverable, burned like a match. I hadn't written a backdoor, I didn't need one. The trap wasn't for me, it was for them. I poured a glass of water, turned off my monitor, and for the first time in months I slept. No dreams, no anxiety, just rest. But I wasn't the only one up that night. At 1:17 a.m., my watcher logged a new access attempt. Derek. He was poking around the backend himself now, clearly trying to identify the handshake failure. Ran a grep for validation and found the module. Opened it. Spent 26 minutes inside the file. And then, he made one small change. A comment added to the top, / to be refactored post-launch. He didn't touch the logic. Didn't even understand it, but he wanted to mark his territory. When he hit save, the system threw a warning. He ignored it, tried to deploy a hotfix. It failed, badly. Rollback initiated. Jenkins threw a tantrum. He deleted the thread from Slack before anyone could reply. The team never saw the alert, but I did. From my end, everything was perfect. The play was set, the actors in place, and in just a few hours, the curtain would rise. One performance only. The venue was some polished, over-engineered tech cathedral in downtown San Francisco, a converted factory with exposed brick, ironic Edison bulbs, the kind of minimalist stage design that screams we blew the budget on ego. Rows of white chairs filled with people who smelled like VC money and virtue-signaling cologne. Everyone was overdressed and overconfident, holding artisanal lattes and limited edition conference badges like they were golden tickets to a smarter, sleeker future. And there, at the back, near the sound booth where no one important ever looks, sat me. Plain black dress. No name tag, no +1, just a front row seat to my own quiet apocalypse. Derek strutted out 15 minutes late because of course he did. He wore all black Steve Jobs cosplay with worse posture, pacing with a wireless mic clipped to his collar and that same rehearsed smirk. Cameras flashed, phones filmed. The livestream counter ticked into 6 digits. Good morning, innovators, he began, voice oozing faux humility. Today isn't just a product launch. It's the beginning of a revolution in secure transactions. I tilted my head. There it was, secure. He loved that word, tossed it around like seasoning, even though he had no idea what it meant under the hood. Security wasn't a feature. It was the skeleton, the bloodstream, the thing that bled silently when you cut it wrong. He clicked the clicker. A slide appeared behind him, glowing animations, fake user metrics, flashy transitions that would have made Marissa dry heave. Logos scrolled by, partners, early adopters, media mentions. Each one a lie stacked atop a stolen blueprint. I scanned the room, VC reps in tailored suits, influencers live streaming with ring lights clipped to their phones. The original founders sat off to the side, looking glossy and tired, names still on the paper, but souls long since cashed out. Derek launched into a demo. On the massive screen behind him, he held up a tablet running the app live, he claimed. Production. The crowd leaned forward, the camera zoomed in. He tapped. I held my breath, but nothing happened. Not yet. The app loaded. The UI glowed. The buttons worked for now. The system had rules, checks, timers. The license validation waited for just the right moment, just long enough for them to be sure it worked. Derek turned to the crowd. When we started this journey, he lied, I knew we needed a backend that was scalable, modular, and self-healing. We built one from scratch. I didn't even blink. He was still talking, but I'd stopped hearing words. My pulse was steady, no anger, no adrenaline, just quiet observation. I watched his hands, his face, the lines at the corners of his eyes twitching from rehearsed confidence and creeping doubt. He tapped another screen, triggered a sample transaction. Still nothing. The app processed the fake payment. The UI cheered. Applause broke out. The journalists typed faster. Hashtags popped up like weeds. One influencer whispered to her phone, "It's actually working." I waited. The lockout was never supposed to hit instantly. It waited for one thing, one real interaction. One genuine session from a verified live user in production with no key. That's when the timer would begin. That's when the mask would peel off. That's when Derek's smile would crack. But for now, he stood there glowing in front of his stolen kingdom. And I just sat there, near the back, the half smile and a full heart. The curtain was up, the trap was awake, and the next click would decide everything. The second he tapped the screen, something shifted. Not loud, not obvious, just off, a flicker. The app didn't respond the way it had in rehearsals. The screen stuttered, then dimmed. For a heartbeat, it just hung there like the system itself was holding its breath. And then it went black. The room, once buzzing with nervous energy and marketing fumes, went dead silent. Behind Derek, the massive display lit up with a stark red font on a matte black void. Stolen property detected. Self-destruct initiated. Then came the countdown. 3, a ripple of confusion surged through the audience. 2 phones came up. A woman in the front row gasped, dropped her branded water bottle. 1, and then chaos. The app froze, hard. The animation stalled mid-frame. Transaction fields evaporated. Live sessions evaporated. Then the database locked. Completely, a cascading sequence of terminal-level commands executed in the background, unseen by most, but not by the devs watching the stream on their laptops backstage. One by one, user data nodes purged their active caches. Session tokens invalidated. The UI collapsed into a system-wide lockdown interface with one final message. Unauthorized launch protocol detected. Source license missing. Shutdown complete. In the crowd, someone whispered, "The hell is this?" Someone else shouted, "Was this planned?" Derek's mic picked up a sharp inhale, but no words came out. His hands hovered above the tablet like it had turned into an explosive device. He tapped again. Nothing. He swiped. Nothing. He turned to the stage crew, eyes wide. "Cut the feed," he hissed. But it was too late. The live stream had already caught it. People were screen recording, tweeting, commenting. "WTF just happened? Is this part of the launch? They get hacked?" A reporter near the front stood up, phone camera fixed on Derek. "Is this a cybersecurity failure?" she asked live, her voice cutting through the tension like a scalpel. Was the app compromised? And then he looked up, saw me. Sitting near the back, legs crossed, arms folded, expression calm. Still, surgical. I didn't smirk, didn't flinch, didn't blink, just held his gaze. He froze. Every drop of color drained from his face. Looked like a child who just realized the stove was still hot. A man beside him, one of the junior engineers who'd been promoted too fast, leaned in and whispered, audible enough for the mics to catch. "She did this, didn't she?" Derek didn't answer. Couldn't. Because that was the moment he realized what I'd built was never just code. It was a verdict. He hadn't just stolen software. He'd stolen authorship, integrity, credit, things that don't go quietly when ripped from their roots. And now, with every camera pointed at his sweating face, every VC watching in horror, every investor's phone vibrating in their pockets with panicked texts from assistants and analysts, the system had responded. Not with a lawsuit, not with a hacker, with logic. Cold, elegant, immutable, I stood, not rushed, not dramatic, just rose from my chair and turned toward the exit. As I passed the doors, someone in the hallway asked, "Is the launch canceled?" I kept walking. Let Derek answer that, if he could. The street outside the venue smelled like burnt espresso and shame. Clusters of people stood frozen on the sidewalk, blinking at their phones, scrolling through live reactions to the onstage meltdown they just witnessed. One guy in a Tesla hoodie muttered into his AirPods, "Yeah, cancel the wire. Just pull it. All of it." A woman in stiletto boots snapped, "No, don't think it was a stunt, Brad. The app died." Behind me, the venue was bleeding executives. VC reps bolted toward black subs with tinted windows and zero patience. A cameraman chased down a board member who fake smiled and said, "We remain optimistic," before vanishing into a vehicle that peeled off like it owed someone money. My phone buzzed, unknown number, but I knew who it was. "Holy shit," the message read. "They're saying you broke it." I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back, "No, I protected my work. They broke the law, no emoji, no follow-up, just the truth, because that's what it was. Derek didn't fail because of sabotage. He failed because he thought ownership came from signatures on offer letters and nice blazers with startup logos stitched into the lining. He forgot that systems have memory, and the one I built remembered everything. By evening, launch was being dubbed the tech implosion of Q4 on Twitter. Some influencer posted a slow-mo of the red screen moment with dramatic music layered over it. The hashtag #StolenProperty detected trended for 6 hours. Day 2, internal leaks hit Reddit. Devs posting anonymously about the weeks of ignored warnings. A screenshot of the license handler code even made it to Hacker News. A few people figured it out, just enough to connect the dots, not enough to reverse engineer what I'd done. Day 3, the board fired Derek, quietly of course, with a PR statement about leadership realignment and refocusing on long-term goals. Day 4, the app was pulled from stores. All demo servers shut down. The homepage now read, "We're undergoing maintenance to bring you a better experience." And day 5, well, that one started with an email from a CTO at a competing firm, someone who'd seen the meltdown and apparently loved a good underdog power play. "We're looking to rebuild our infrastructure from the ground up," she wrote, privately, "on your terms." I marked it unread. I wasn't in a rush. Instead, I walked to my favorite coffee shop, the one with the flickering Edison bulb and a barista who spelled my name Sophie every time and took my usual seat by the window. I opened my laptop. The same one they hadn't even asked me to return. Same one that still carried traces of the early builds, the midnight test logs, the first version of the encryption layer written while half asleep and 3 espressos deep. I updated my resume, scrolled to the bottom, typed proprietary backend architecture, secure, non-transferable. Then I sipped my coffee and hit save. The revenge wasn't fire. It wasn't fury. It was just the truth written in code. A reminder that some things can't be stolen, only imitated badly by people who think appearances are structure and buzzwords are blueprints. I never heard from Derek again. That was the real win.
And that's the story. Take care of yourselves out there. The world's unpredictable enough.